everyone. It may seem a bit early for us to be starting talking about Christmas already, but we do have to start thinking about it, because actually this year is definitely going to be a little bit different than what we were probably planning at the beginning of the year. And so what today I would like to do is just share how we can share the greatest story ever told in the digital age. So a bit about me. I am the digital missioner for SWBA. I live in Plymouth and I do love Christmas so much. So it is very exciting that I do get to have my decorations up, but they will be going away because I think that it is still a smidge too early to have them out. But what I'm going to cover today is a few things to think about before you even start prepping for what services and activities you want to do. I'm going to share 4 ideas, and they're not the be all and end all ideas. You don't have to do them. They are just there to spark some creative ideas or to get you kind of thinking about what's possible. I'll share a couple of resources that hopefully will help you create content and do sort of digital slightly more effectively, and then we will have some time for questions at the end. But as Carl's already said, feel free to put them in the chat section if you've got ideas whilst I'm saying things. So first thoughts, what is going to happen with Christmas? To be honest, who knows? Things are so rapidly changing. Why we decided to talk specifically on digital Christmas is that actually it would probably be better to play it safe, and rather than plan a big carols by candlelight service that then we can't actually, 1, sing in church, or 2, actually we're limited to the amount of people. I know in our church it's a wonderful opportunity for us to reach out to the community and we pack the church with those who maybe come regularly and those who come only a few times a year, which is absolutely wonderful to see them. But we sort of just thought it might be better to maybe do some options that allow you to have Christmas regardless of whether we're allowed in church or not. But also to think about what is Christmas really about, the birth of Christ and the amazing message that brings. So sort of keeping that in your mind about what your activities are really reflecting on. But also don't worry. It's a difficult time for everyone, but actually if you're limited on resources, teams, or actually just time to be able to do stuff, don't worry. Everyone's doing the best that they can. And finally, be creative, have some fun, try new things. I think this last few months have shown that we can do different things and church can reach new people. So getting ready for the planning of what you're going to do, make sure to give yourself time. So it might seem a little bit early, but actually if you're going to do maybe some different things or things that require technical resources, just make sure that you're not leaving it until kind of beginning of December to start thinking about that. Think about how will your promotions go? How are people going to find out what's going on? Obviously, if you've got a service, in previous years you could put posters up and people would see it. Actually, how are you going to communicate with people what you're doing over the season? One-click evangelism, it's a phrase that I do use quite a bit, and I didn't come up with it, but it's a brilliant sort of concept in that get your community, get your congregation, get those who are engaged with you already on social media, get them to take a responsibility of sharing the message out, on whether that's videos or resources that the church is doing or services, talks, or whatever. Get them to share it out, because the more people from your congregation that share it, the value given to potential new audiences is greater. But also thinking about next steps. So what are you going to do in January? Discipleship courses, things like Alpha, fellowship, so engaging more through community groups on Facebook and small groups, and other ways to get people to stay engaged with your church, possibly more digitally, because who knows again how the new year's going to end up. So the first idea is online services. Now that is a fairly broad and generic idea. Obviously we've all been doing that the last few months anyway, but a couple different of ways that you can do it. Do it as a live service. So essentially that is taking away the congregation that you'd normally have for a carols by candlelit service, but doing the same thing, the same order, the same carols, the same people involved, doing that, just live streaming it. That obviously is limited to those who can be involved. It does require a bit of technical know-how, but it's more like a past service, so that may be comforting to those who are long-time congregation members, or even for new people, actually they just quite like the way that it's normal services are. Then there's pre-recorded video, so this allows you for a bit more creativity and a bit more kind of different locations, different people you can get involved, but will require more planning and probably actually a bit more technical experience in filming and then editing. But in terms of delivering it, so streaming it, actually you'd probably have fewer technical hitches with it, because actually you can make sure that it all runs smoothly prior to it going live. If, however, you have limited resources, time, Carl and I are planning to sort of coordinate a SWBA wide service, so that will be going around the region to get different readings, different songs, different stories from people, to have a SWBA service that can then be used for your own service, so that you don't need to create one yourself. So it's a bit more of a kind of pre-made resource for you. And then finally, and this actually could then link in with the first two, is connect with other churches. Actually, do you have churches down the road from you that you work with already? Are you able to share resources, share teams? Maybe they've got a really good music group, but you've actually got a really lovely building. Are you able to connect with people, share resources, and actually create a more cohesive and impactful message by the end of your service? Number two is the community carol service, which is more community focused. So rather than the service, the online services being this is church broadcasting, this is more about going out and using the different groups, those maybe that are on the fringes of church, different locations that maybe are less aesthetically church, typically churchy, but focusing on sort of activities and events and people, especially during these difficult times, that have people really shown actually what it means to be a Christian during these times. And honestly, you could do that however you wanted to, whether that's more on a service theme, but actually I'd encourage to think about it being something that people feel like they've been a part of, that then they want to share out. Then premiering it on social media, which again you can do with all of them, but actually it gives it more of a kind of show or vibe to it, in that actually people have that anticipation and excitement for when it comes up, and then everyone watches it together. So that's sort of more about bringing the community into the church, though that's not into the church building. Then crafting, because what is Christmas without crafting? So this is a bit more, more of kind of a Blue Peter Art Attack style kind of way of thinking. So at our church, we'd normally have at the end of November, we'd have a Christmas crafting session, and we'd make wood carvings or cookie decorating, flower arranging and things, and lots of different things, and it is for the both young and young at heart. It's not just for families, not just for children, not just for older congregation members. They could be at the church or not a part of the church, they've just seen a flyer locally. And this is a really wonderful way to engage with those that want to do that but just don't know how to do it. So you could theme it around loads of different ways, and again, this doesn't have to be just once. It could be you could do it every week, or you could do it as a series, but you could do Christingle, do some nativity themes, Advent on different then themes within the Christmas story, so light, hope, angels. You could tell the Christmas story through it, but it does require a bit of planning prior to it, because actually if you were doing it in person, if we were doing it at the churches, you'd be able to have all the resources there. But obviously some people don't know what to buy, or maybe actually they just aren't able to. So creating the resource packs and sort of craft ingredients for them, and connecting with people by giving it to them, actually is a great way to get them engaged with the activity. Doing then videos or live streams alongside then makes it people feel like they're engaged with it then, and you can create, you know, you could use different people within the congregation. So maybe you've got some youth workers or families workers who really love doing crafting bits, or maybe actually there's you know, lovely Doris, who doesn't get that engaged with the Christmas service, the sort of carols by candlelight service, but she decorates the most phenomenal Christmas cookies. Could you get her to you know, literally just talk about it? And actually the authenticity of having different members of the congregation sharing why they do this craft, and maybe there's a story behind it, they've done it for generations, or actually this is a new thing that they've learned over the year. Actually, can you you know, can you join in and take this as part of your Christmas traditions? It's a wonderful way to get people having that relationship that you'd have if you were in the room normally crafting. Hope that makes sense. And then not just finishing it there on you know, okay, well, we've done the craft and that's it, thank you very much, see you next week for something else, but following up on social media. And this is not just about getting your church family engaged and it being, well, we're doing it together, but actually getting those who aren't a part of your church normally, but maybe they do come the once a year for the Christmas service, or those groups who use the church, would use the church hall normally, but engaging them prior to doing these. So thinking about, you know, your local schools, primary schools, toddler groups and parents group, talking to people, if there's people, you know, out in parks near you, actually sharing that this is going on. And that's all kids groups, and that's wonderful, but actually again thinking that it's not just for families and young people, but the young at heart. Obviously this time has been really difficult for so many people, and especially those who are maybe older and less technically able, where isolation is a huge issue. So actually, can you link in with groups that sort of support isolated people, or old people's homes and care homes, and, you know, connect with their activities coordinator? You can provide, hey, look, we're going to provide some crafts and the resources and videos to make these crafts. How wonderful is that as a gift from the church to those homes? And then being able to get pictures or videos, or sparking that conversation on either social media or from emails, or having Zooms afterwards where people can share the things that they've made. And it's a wonderful way for people to feel like they are a part of something, even though unfortunately it's all by screens. So yeah, that's just the kind of tip of the iceberg with what crafting potentials you could do, and I will go into some resources later on, but I will just quickly put in here that actually Pinterest, just if you're looking for resources or ideas, Pinterest is a fantastic way just to see kind of easy crafts that can be made by anyone, no matter abilities. And our kind of big idea that Carl and I came up with in July, down on sunny Plymouth Harbour. It was probably like one of the hottest days in July, and we came up with an idea of the big community carol sing. So a bit sort of taking the inspiration from the Clap for Carers and how that brought the communities together. It brought people, you know, neighbours that maybe actually you don't normally talk to your neighbours, or maybe you just have sort of opposite times of movement, you know, going to and from work and stuff. So actually you just don't know who your neighbours are. The Clap for Carers got people out on their doorsteps, connecting with their neighbourhood at the same time and feeling like they were a part of something that was beyond just sort of the one house, but bringing everyone together. So we wanted to kind of take that inspiration and that unity that it brought with carol singing, because obviously, as I said, we probably can't sing carols in our churches at Christmas, so why not take the carol singing onto the streets, take the churches out onto the streets. This is the opportunity to connect with people, but it's not about it being a church-led activity, it's individual-led, and we would just love to see every single person from every church engaging with their neighbours, with their community, with their roads, or depending on how big your street is, you know, can we marker where people are and say, you know, we want to celebrate Christmas. So as well, kind of the inspiration was, if for those of you down in the Southwest Awake, and how at one time everyone would be praying and celebrating across the Southwest. We would just love to have everyone, maybe not at the same time, but you know, within a certain time, maybe we'd say a week or something, but you know, people coming out in the streets, and so we want to create this as a bit of a campaign and provide resources for everyone. We're going to do a website where you can download pre-made flyers and posters, and it's not about singing, you know, 20 carols and having a sermon. It's literally 2 or 3 songs, and we'd provide carol sheets for everyone, and all you'd have to do is either print them out or share online and allow people to join in with you. And this could be done literally as easy as that, or it could be going around maybe in small groups, you know, having a socially distanced carol sing in the streets, or if you've got musicians that could stand outside and share, or lead a song, possibly even, depending on resources, giving out a small gift. So like even a tea light that everyone could have, so that as you're singing Silent Night, everyone has a tea light, and yeah, really bringing that kind of the spirit of Christmas and that wonder out on the streets. And then, gosh, I've gone through that slightly quicker than I expected. Finally is ask. Like, these were just sort of 4 initial ideas that we've had, and kind of I've tried to expand upon in different ways, but really you don't have to do it in one way. Ask your congregation, ask your community. Might have someone who actually is a phenomenal guitar player, but they never have a chance to really play at Christmas. Actually, could they play, you know, make a carol playlist for you of different songs that you can share out? You know, what do your congregation want to do? What do your community want to do? Engage with those local groups that I've mentioned already, you know, toddler groups, preschools, isolation groups, different groups for different people. What do they want to do? And then get them involved. Don't think that you have to do everything and it all falls on you. I think this time of difficulty over the year has shown that actually we need to come together and support each other, and that maybe you can do one thing, but someone else can do something else. So work together in what you want to do, and don't think that you have to do it exactly as the suggestions that I've given. And then this, not obviously don't do it word for word, but look at what other churches are doing, get inspiration from what different churches are doing. It doesn't have to be this year and what they're doing now. Maybe someone's thought of a really unique way to tell the Christmas story, or perhaps someone has done a film series on the nativity that is open to people sharing. So look and take inspiration from other people, and don't worry kind of about whether it's how you've done it before. I think that was it for that one. So some further thoughts of just kind of things to remember depending on what you actually want to do. Obviously, if this is all a lot of online stuff, thinking about safeguarding. So if you're doing the something with the community, actually, if you've got vulnerable people or families, just making sure that that all of your safeguarding is correct. I think Carl, you said that if anyone needs advice, that to get in touch. I think, but everyone, or ask your safeguarding person. I think collaborate. Sorry, I've lost my notes now. Collaborating with others, obviously, as I said, connect with the church, your local churches, connect with churches that you maybe have worked with in other areas, but also think about local charities and other organisations, other local choirs that you could connect with, or yeah, it is so much potential for different groups to connect with. Gifts for the community, as I said, tea lights or the craft stuff, other ways that actually you can give out into the community if we're not able to do the things that we'd normally do in church. If we're not having mulled wine, is there a way that actually you could give everyone some cookies or something festive? Think about your campaign and theme. So again, almost this is actually a pre-thought, but obviously depending on what you want to do, think about what your message is throughout. So that could be light, angels, hope, even going into some more kind of more modern thoughts around it, such as migration and poverty. Actually, can you connect them with charities that do social action to raise their stories during Christmas, and work your campaigns throughout the season? So could the Bible readings that you share out each week connect to actually what you will do in your in your Christmas service, reflections from different people that maybe will end up being in your community service, and as well sort of thinking about things that maybe you won't end up having time to include for your main services. Can you sort of sprinkle that out throughout the I don't want to say month, but from however long you decide to do your campaign for, that actually you build up that anticipation and expectation for the services. Being inclusive, so think about the different ages and interests, abilities, accessibilities, hearing, visual, and platforms that people will use. So as much as Facebook is a sort of predominant platform, actually think, what if people don't have Facebook? Are you using the different platforms that it is on YouTube, but also are you putting it out on your website? Because that may be the first place that people go because they don't have social media. Don't focus maybe necessarily all on kids' work if actually your church doesn't have that much of youth groups, and then vice versa, that actually if you've got a thriving youth group, include them in what you want to do, that they feel like they've been a part of it. And promotion, so as I said already, build that anticipation, excitement, get your congregation sharing the services, run some teasers or share kind of sermon graphics that kind of makes people think in their mind, oh, I've got to make sure that we're home so that we can watch the service, and it's not sort of an afterthought that they think of later. you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter when they watch it, but having that sort of ability to watch live and together is a wonderful way for people to feel a part of it, that they would do when we were in the buildings, that actually that may be limited this year. So tools and resources. And so this again is not an exclusive list. These are sort of just some that I work with, or I've been recommended by other people. There are plenty of other sites that you can use, but hopefully these just start you if you don't know of any. But if you use other sites, I'd love to know, because it's always good to know what different resources people use. So if you're looking for places to do content creation, so flyers, posters, sermon graphics, backgrounds for videos and things, Canva is a fantastic tool. There's a free version and a paid version, but even the free version is amazing. There's so many different things that you can do. There's templates that people can that you can kind of work from. Crello is also a brilliant tool as well. I think that's a bit more video based, but again, really useful. If you're looking for visual graphics, so pictures or videos, really good quality photos that are royalty free, Unsplash is one that I use so often, and they are, again, there's a lot of the photos that I've used in this presentation are from there. Pixabay and Pexels are also really good, and Lightstock is a one that I have just recently found. I think that is actually a faith-based photo resource, so actually it's a lot more church-based imagery. Audio, obviously there will be, dependent on what your licensing is for your streaming, but it's just making sure as well that actually your if you're doing carols and things, that they are royalty free, because actually some, Carl and I were just discussing last night that some are not. You'd be surprised at some that aren't, even though most are. But obviously if you're doing them in versions yourself, then it's you've got a bit more opportunity. So but if you're looking for kind of background music and things for videos, YouTube Audio Library is really good, and that is royalty free, and that YouTube allows that music going on there. And Amen Worldwide is again a Christian music site. I haven't used that one yet, but I've heard good things about it. And then if you're looking for resources, so crafting ideas or sermon graphics or service ideas, CPO, Bible Society, Scripture Union and Music Academy are really good. They've got hundreds of different resources, and there should be, in the handout that I've done for this talk, it is a PDF. It will have the links for it, so it will take you to the different sites, especially for those last four, because I have actually found the kind of Christmas specific areas for them. Finally, don't get bogged down by the worry of having to do Christmas online and doing it in a certain way. Do it that is authentic to you and what you're able to do, but don't forget the true message of Christmas and sharing the greatest story ever told. And that's more important than about whether your background looks shiny enough or you know, whether your camera is high tech or not. It's the story that's important. Obviously it's going to be a different Christmas than it's ever been before. We don't know what's going to happen. So let us bring the light and hope of Christ's birth to our communities, and, you know, let's bring some joy to the season. So that is me. Done. I hope that is sort of just giving you some ideas and sparks some ideas and creativity, and hopefully maybe some useful resources that will help you with your Christmas planning. If you have any questions, obviously we've got some time now, but if you'd like to chat any further, there's my email address. But also visit the SWBA digital mission page, and there's be all the resources on there. So yes.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Hannah. Do you want to take us off screen share?
Oh, there we go.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So what I do in terms of local church ministry is to try and connect all the bits up. And so I'm in the conversations, all I'm thinking is, as someone that's been involved in local churches, how can we actually link all this stuff into a program that fits together, that the church can get on board with over Christmas time? So just to use the examples that Hannah's been working on there, in my mind, I'm thinking, and this will be different for you, but I just want to spin it out and get the juices flowing, your Christmas juices, get them flowing. What about a online Christingle service? At what point am I going to put the invitations to make a Christmas craft into the book bags in my local primary school, and also get them to the activities coordinators of the old people's homes in my community? This is a gift for the activities coordinators in the old people's home in my community, and then get them to register their details so that I can get my guys from church to make up their Christingle packs that I'm then going to deliver to all of these people around the community, so they've got all of the resources that they need, so that when I go with my live stream, probably on Facebook Live or on YouTube, just because it's easy, when I go live with my live stream of how to do my Christmas craft make, there's all of these people that have got the right URL on their invitation, possibly already liked my Facebook channel in advance, and are ready to go to tune in to the Christmas Christingle crafting make. That's difficult to say. And then at that point in time, if not before, they're going to use their Christingle and light it in their doorways on the big community carol sing, which we've also now got a date for and a time for, so that everybody in my church has got in contact with people on their street using the invitations that Hannah's produced, downloadable and editable from the big Christmas carol sing website, so that everyone can invite people along to their doorsteps, those that have got the Christingle with their Christingle or with a tea light you've given them, on Thursday at 8 p.m. on the X of December, when we're all going to sing Away in a Manger, because everybody always knows it anyway. You can argue about the heresy of that particular carol if you choose, but choose one that people know. And I've already put the carol sheet through everybody's letterbox and developed my WhatsApp group for my street, so that they can also have contacts through the WhatsApp group. So now you've got the Christingle make linked with the big community carol sing, and off the back of that, you've also identified key players from your local community, the headmistress of the local primary school, the local beat bobby, the local politician, the town mayor or the MP, who you've got to do the various readings for your recorded online carol service. Maybe you've even videoed them in familiar places around the community, the bus stop that everybody uses, the entrance to the school building, outside the town hall, and you've edited that together so that your carol service that you will put a short reflection on what the meaning of Christmas is as part of, is presented by people that aren't part of your church. And that almost certainly guarantees not only will they watch it when it premieres on Facebook Live and YouTube, but everybody they know will also be watching it because they're taking part. And now you've got a huge amount of people from your local community that you are able to reach in a virtual way. Each of the ideas can be spun out differently. People singing in their doorways, most doorways are socially distanced, and inside you are allowed to sing. So that's not particularly an issue. Gathering people outside, yes, is an issue in terms of gatherings, and singing isn't allowed in gatherings. So that can't be done. But already I know of one church that's talking about hiring a flatbed lorry or asking the Carnival Club to borrow theirs, to put their musicians on the back of, drive around their community and play carols at set stops so that people come to their doorstep and can sing along to a carol that is being played to them from the back of a lorry with a PA system on their street by the local church band. So there are various ways in which we can do this so that A, it meets regulations, B, engages with people, and C, potentially creates a community which is both physical and virtual. And the biggie for me with this idea, Hannah's idea with the big community carol sing, is just genius, because ultimately it's not about you organising a massive event. It's about you asking the folks in your churches to contact the people on their street. And from a point of view of the mission of God, the relationships that that forms or enhances are the fundamental building blocks of sharing faith. So whether that continues with a WhatsApp group or just knowing the neighbours, then there's something there which is available beyond. I'm going to shirk now because I've dreamt my little local church dream. Yours will be different, and your abilities will be different, and your thoughts will be different. But I just want to get to whet your appetite in terms of your beginnings of planning as far as this Christmas time goes. Just so that you are aware, that presentation that Hannah's done is going to be available, and you can download it from the page that I'll put in the website, the web page that I'll put in the chat box in just a minute. But just so that you are also aware, this particular webinar is going to be available on our Vimeo channel and our YouTube channel, the details of which I've just put into the chat box for you. So this will go up by the end of tomorrow evening. You should be able to watch and download this. I want to give some opportunity now for questions for Hannah. So if you want to write questions in the box, then that would be helpful. There's various different things that you have found are helpful in terms of resources. And if you can put resources that you found helpful in the chat box, I'm going to save the chat box, and then I will make that available as a link from the description on Vimeo and YouTube, so you'll be able to look at people's comments in the chat box if you do that. There's various people here, Hannah, that are pointing out things. Someone said that they like the idea of gifts for the community. Could include small and large acts of service. So not just a physical gift. I like that idea. One-to-one or bigger projects. Mentioned night shelters, Christmas meals, food hampers. These are things that are close to Hannah's heart, with some other activities that she does in Plymouth to help engage with food poverty in the city. Clothing for children, what a great idea. Any thoughts on other gifts that could easily be given out to bless your community? Please write them in the chat box. Someone's mentioned Why Christmas is a great website for Christmassy stuff. I've used that before. Indeed it is. Some good resources there. Hannah's email address, just so that you're aware, will be on the web page that I will share with you in just a moment. Freely Photos is another resource that people have said. Someone's asked a question here, useful photos for specific places. Could secular choirs be involved in the big community carol sing? What a great idea. I guess in terms of the regulations, we're going to have to see what is and isn't allowed by Christmas in terms of choirs. I'm hearing at the moment that socially distant choirs have actually started to go back into large churches and cathedrals. And as you are aware, small music groups are allowed within our churches at the moment. So in terms of the rules, we will need to look at them. But why not? The more people who are not involved in the life of the church that you can involve in this Christmas period, the better. And there's people written other resources in here. Someone pointed to the Church Comms collection, which is a Facebook group. That's a great one. Some pretty advanced ideas on that. Someone suggesting nativity windows. Can you get people to paint nativity scenes on their windows in your community over Christmas time? Lovely idea. Right, please write questions in this box for me. For those who don't have iPads, iPhones, Macs, what software would you recommend for creating, editing video content for a recorded service? Over to you, Eleanor, and please do keep writing your questions in the chat box. Editing software that you would use, particularly if people are on a PC rather than a Mac, what would you choose?
Oh, I'm a Mac user, so I have certain experiences with that. I would say generally most fairly newish phones will be absolutely fine for recording. Obviously, if you're wanting to do music stuff, do have to play around and test, because actually you may need to bring in some additional equipment to make sure that balances between instruments and vocals are right. But I would say, like, in all honesty, most phones are fine. always worth connecting even with your, like, if you've got colleges near you, to see like media teams, and whether you can hire out either camera equipment, audio equipment, and even they have editing suites and stuff. I know that's then a bit of a complicated thing for you, don't have the experience in doing it, but even there's a way to connect through the organisations there. If you have a Mac, though, iMovie is already on MacBooks, and that's really good. If you're PC based, then Movie Maker, again, did you say, Carl, that it's not automatic? You do have to download it.
Yeah.
But that's free, and that is absolutely fine. Again, don't get bogged down about thinking it's got to be all flashy and whizzy. If just do what you can. So iPads,
Go on, I'll go with that one. So if you've got a PC, Windows Movie Maker, and there's a Pro version of that as well, are both downloadable. The basic version at least is free, if not the Pro version as well. And for a simple edit with some transitions, you know, so you kind of fade between clips, titles at the beginning, titles at the end, and adding things like background tracks, music tracks and what have you, that is really, really good and very simple to use. If you want to pay for something, then whether it is PC or Mac, the industry standard is Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro is A, expensive, and B, difficult to use, but there is a slimmed down version called Elements. Premiere Elements you can pick up online, even the latest version for about 50 quid, and older versions for a lot cheaper than that. So if you're wanting something a bit more advanced, then Premiere Pro, and there's Premiere Elements, and the 2020 version of it is pretty good, which will cost you about 50 quid. Go on, Hannah.
I was just thinking as well, even though, again, it's on, so I don't know if it's PC available, but DaVinci Resolve, that's free, and that's a bit more complicated to get started with it, but there's loads of features within that you can use. So yeah.
Well, and that's someone else, Karen, suggested DaVinci Resolve. Certainly it's very feature rich, so that would be great. There's some information there about free Bible images that have good pictures covering Christmas narratives for children. That are happy for them to be used freely on social media. One rider, if you want to use material that you will find here from Lumo, check them out first. That's from my bro. Thank you, bro. If you want to drop the URL into the chat box for that'd be really helpful. And I'm just reading what Jamie has said.
There's a question after Eleanor's about the SWBA wide service.
Right, so that will be a pre-recorded service that we're going to put on Vimeo. Our Vimeo channel, you can really easily download content on our Vimeo channel, as you'll see if you go and look at it a little bit later on. There's a download button, so you can click it and it will download it, easier than from YouTube, where you need some third-party software to rip it. So we'll put it on the Vimeo channel as well as YouTube. You can either send people to that URL, that web link, or you can download it yourself and show it as part of an online presentation that you want to do as a local church. So our hope is that you will have the ability to be able to use the content we use in your very local context. If you see what I mean, you can make reference to where it's from if you want to, but you don't have to. The important thing is that if you're struggling to get together a service but you want to be able to put something out into the digital world, well, we'll use our churches and we'll put something together for you, and then you choose to use that however is going to be most effective for the gospel in your local context. We just want to resource you with that. So that's the plan for that one. So it won't be a live event. It will be a downloadable resource that you can download and use as you choose. People are saying pro version of Windows Movie Maker is $9.99, and there's various people here that are sharing things that are helpful in terms of other resources. This is from one of our ministers, Hannah. At the moment, we don't have a Twitter, Facebook, or anything else. I'd like to start a regular something where I can post a thought, a question, a hope, a wonder to the church and the community and the town and whoever else. this can hopefully be a place where we would advertise Christmas events and continue the journey with people during and after the Christmas period. Hannah, maybe you just want to say something or make a comment there with regards to integrating various different things, church websites with various social media, and potentially also other things. So in this particular case, the church has done a cracking job using YouTube. So pre-recorded services that go out and get hits from across the world on YouTube. Brilliant work, great stuff. But just in terms of local community and building local community through social media, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah. The first thing that, okay, I'm going to try this, filter all my thoughts really, really quickly. First thing is have a website. That is your home turf. That is where it is yours. It is not rented property to any other platform. All of your information should be on there that is accessible for people, whether it's services, messages, advertising events and stuff. Website is sort of like the first thing that needs to be thought about. Then I would say probably Facebook would be the next best thing to do. Sorry. Because most people are on it. You have a diverse audience, from younger people to older people, but also actually the features and capabilities on Facebook are probably the most useful to a church in terms of you can do events. So like how this webinar has been promoted, you've got events, you've got your page where it is sort of like the front porch of a house where you can have the this is what we're doing, hey, this is our service, here's something sort of maybe slightly more light-hearted and inspirational. It's a great way for sort of if the public are passing. But then within Facebook you can also have groups, and you can have chats, and you can have like literally hundreds of groups attached within a page, where people can have that more in-depth and integrated conversation. So actually, okay, here's the service that was publicly advertised and promoted and people can watch through YouTube or Facebook, but then actually, hey, let's have a conversation about our thoughts on that and the Bible reading and the message that was given, plus also with live and premiering, and just Facebook is probably the first thing in terms of social platforms to use. If it's about, sorry, I'm just reading, question, hope, or wonder, which I love, I would almost say Instagram possibly would be slightly better, as that is visual, and again the features, you've got Instagram stories, reels, highlights, and there's a number of different features that actually allow you to group things a bit better. Twitter I do love, however it's a bit more limited to the potential of users, but also those that the engagement back and that conversation, you'd have to be quite in a more niche or discussion. So Twitter could be great for all of us if we're talking about sharing ideas and stuff, but if it's as a church leader wanting to engage with the public, actually not that many people, maybe you may have actually an area where it has, there are a lot of Twitter users. I'd say, just to finish this with my idea, it's always worth getting the accounts so that your names are all the same. So have the accounts, just don't advertise that you use them. So have them as kind of like unpublished social accounts, but at least then you've got all of your names on the platforms are the same, which is always worth doing just in case. And then as you have the time, understanding and resources to engage on then Instagram and Twitter, do that. But it's better to focus on one or two things really well than trying to spread yourself too thin.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Hannah. We've got one more question here, which I'm going to ask. If there are others who've got questions, then please, you can stick them in the chat box. That's helpful to know what your questions are. We're going to try and finish this webinar pretty promptly at the time that we said that we would. So one more question that I'll ask Hannah live, but please feel free. I'll put the contact details in the chat box in just a moment, and you can email if there are other further questions you want to ask Hannah. This is a question from Andy, Hannah, in Silverton Evangelical Church. We'd like to do a pre-recorded service with lots of people in the community involved. Just wondered your thoughts on how long we should make this service, the length of the service, and also where would you get good video versions of carols to use in an online service? So there's two questions there. How long should a community online carol service be, and where would you get the songs from, the carols from?
How long? I would say that depends on how long you want to, how long your previous services have been and what the engagement on that is like. And so always worth going into your insights, or if it's on Facebook or YouTube, to see actually how long people are watching it for. A view doesn't necessarily mean they've been there for the whole 45 minutes. So it's always good to see that. To be honest, not as long as a people in the pews service would be, I would say, because actually it's harder to engage when it's online. I would say probably, that's a really tricky one to say for definite, but I would say kind of 20 minutes. You almost want to do something short and sharp and well executed, than something that you're trying to do 45 minutes to an hour for, and actually it's a lot of effort editing it, and you sort of like lose the will towards the end of it. But also, actually, just, are people going to stay watching it for all of it? You could do kind of a series of it, so rather than having one big service, you could have two services in the Sunday's run up, or whatever. So I would say probably, I wouldn't double check it, but I would say kind of off the top of my head, 20 minutes seems ample time, and that gives you a sort of chance to do a couple of songs, and a bit of a talk. And again, you don't want to be talking for 30 minutes, because that's like really hard, especially if it's sort of more of an engagement thing than an educational thing like this is. Good video versions of carols, I will need to double check that.
But certainly there's places out there that you can download high quality versions of carols with lyrics over the top of them as well. But my feeling is that quite a lot of churches are going to be recording these over the coming months, and I might give a few a nudge. For those that haven't found it, on our website is a page which is about online service resources. If you go onto swbaptists.org.uk, go into the resources section, you'll find online service resources on which there are loads and loads of worship songs that various of our churches have recorded that are available free to you to download, so long as you use them with the correct streaming licenses. The performance is gifted to you, but you still need the correct CCLI license and then the additional streaming license in order to use them online. I think I'll probably will add to that list. It's a fairly sizable list of worship songs, but I'll put a section of Christmas carols, so then you can go onto that web page and have downloadable Christmas carols that various folks from our churches have recorded, so that you've got something that can be used as time goes by. That's great. I think that we are going to come into land fairly soon.
Can I make two responses?
Please do, Hannah.
People are commenting back to David, but David, feel free to give me a message and I can show you how to find your insights on Facebook. It's easy once you know where to look, but if you don't know where to go, that's fine. And also, I know a couple of people have asked where the Christmas in Trouble GIF was from. Apparently it's from the Christmas Chronicles, I think, which is the Netflix film that came out 2018.
That's amazing. I saw that. Sorry that I didn't ask that question, because you've asked it a few times. So yeah, no, but thank you. I want to thank Hannah so much for her preparation for all of this. Just to say that in your chat box now is going up some information that hopefully you'll choose to follow. So a handout which has been prepared by Hannah for this webinar, plus a example flyer for the Big Church Community Carol Sing, and other links to the online resources that Hannah has mentioned in the presentation today. The links and everything are in the useful resources section, which is the bottom of the web page that you can see there, swbaptist.org.uk/mission/digital. So that's got information about Hannah. It's got her email address on that page if you want to email her. It's got the downloads of the webinar and the idea for Big Community Carol Sing to give you a flavour of what an invite might look like. The website, which will be its own website, Big Community Carol Sing website, is going to go live in October, and we'll make that available to you. We'd also really appreciate it on that same webpage if you take 2 minutes to fill in the digital mission survey, if you've not already, that's on that page, just because that will give us an idea of how we can serve you in the future. In this whole area of engaging in the digital world with the mission of God, what are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that a digital missioner specialist could be able to help you with when it comes down to future webinars or bits of information we can put on the website? How can we serve you? So that will help, just to take 2 minutes to fill in the survey that's on that same web page. So please do take a little look at that and click on that link before. I'm going to leave the room open, so before you leave the Zoom room, if you click on that link, it should open your browser. And just to say as well that this is the first of a series of webinars that Hannah is going to do. So the next one, and the details are just popping up now in your chat box, is going to be on digital resources. All about what digital resources are available to churches. So it's an extension of that one slide that Hannah shared today with various resources that are available online, but for a longer session. There's lots out there, some paid for, some free, but just so that if you're struggling, where do I go to look for this stuff? How on earth did Hannah make that Big Community Carol Sing flyer look so professional? Right? Well, part of it is because she's Hannah, but part of it is because of the online resource that she used to produce it. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, then please do come to that webinar, which is on Wednesday, 14th of October at 11 o'clock on Zoom. And if you want to keep up to date, please do like our Facebook page. We've got facebook.com/SWBaptist. The link is there. If you go to that and like that page, that would be great. Just a quick reminder to you as well that this webinar is going to be available on our Vimeo channel, vimeo.com/SWBA, where our previous webinars are also available on subjects like mental health, mission, and such like, exploring your calling. There's webinars on various things that you can go take a look at on that Vimeo channel now. And do join us again for digital resources on Wednesday, 14th of October. We've had about 46 people in the room today, which is a good number. We can have up to 100, which means that if you want to share this with others for future webinars, please do. Those of you that are part of Baptist Together, the Baptist Union, some of this resource and others will be available to you through our national website and our national comms team as well in the future. Before we go, I'm just going to pray and then we are going to close. Let's pray. God, I thank you for this incredible season that we head into. Every season, God, is a season of your blessing and your goodness. But Lord, in the world around us, never have we a greater opportunity to share the good news about you that we have found with those in our local communities. God, will you begin even now to stir our hearts, Lord, all of us, every single member of every single church, with the opportunity that there is on our streets, with our neighbours, to share the hope that we have found. Lord, we recognise this year this upwelling of desire to celebrate something, to find some hope, to find some light in the midst of a dark place. Jesus, you are that hope. You are that light. This we know. but we recognise the people on our street don't all know that. So whether that is through things like the big community carol sing, or online craft making, or prepared services, Lord, will you inspire our hearts, Lord, as to the way that we should go to serve you and to serve our communities by sharing with them the hope that we have found. And Lord, I pray as well that contacts that are made in this season for the first time may continue on as relationships deepen with people on our streets, Lord, with those in our communities, so that over this next few years, that sense of continued message of hope, continued light in dark places might be something that people find. Lord, we thank you for the gift of Christmas, but Lord, we thank you that the hope that it represents is with us in all times and in all circumstances. Lord, may that message go out loud and clear to our world that so desperately needs to hear it. Blessings be upon each of my sisters and brothers joined with us in this room today, and those watching afterwards on one of our virtual channels. Lord, may they know all goodness, and Lord, may they know your blessing in their lives as they seek to be a blessing to their communities. And in our places, all God's people said, Amen.